Welcome back to Zarila HOA Stories. Drop your country or city name in comments. Chapter 1. The House on Willow Creek. The road to Willow Creek curved through tall pine trees, their shadows slicing across the cracked pavement. When Lena Hart saw the house at the end of the lane, her chest tightened. It looked both alive and forgotten. Chipped paint, sagging porch, and shutters half closed like tired eyelids. This was her grandfather's house, the one everyone in the family called the old problem. She parked her small car beside the fence. The air smelled of rain and pine sap. The neighborhood was silent, too perfect. Trimmed lawns, matching mailboxes, every flower bed identical. Her house didn't belong here, and she felt it instantly. A small wooden sign hung near the gate. Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Rules keep us beautiful. Lena rolled her eyes. Beautiful, sure, she muttered. Inside, the house greeted her with dust and memories. The floor creaked like it was warning her. The living room held faded furniture and a silent clock stuck at 11:47. On the mantel sat a photograph of her grandfather, proud, serious, standing right on this same porch. Beneath it, a sealed envelope read, "For the next heart." She hesitated, then slipped it into her jacket pocket. Outside, she noticed curtains moving in the houses across the street. People were watching, quietly, curiously. She waved once. No one waved back. A sharp knock broke the silence the next morning. Lena opened the door to find 3 people smiling too politely. "Good morning," said a woman with perfect hair and a clipboard. "I'm Mrs. Caldwell, president of the Willow Creek HOA. We like to welcome new homeowners personally." "Thanks," Lena said carefully. Behind Caldwell stood a tall man with a measuring tape clipped to his belt and a younger woman holding a tiny dog. Caldwell's eyes flicked over the porch, the cracked steps, the peeling doorframe. "We have a few standards in this community," she said sweetly. "You'll find the rules in your mailbox: paint colors, lawn height, exterior designs. We like uniformity." "I just got here," Lena said. "Haven't even unpacked yet." "Of course," Caldwell said. "One more thing. Please don't enter the attic. It's unstable. Your grandfather had incidents up there." Lena frowned. "Incidents?" Caldwell smiled tightly. "Old houses hold old accidents. Anyway, welcome to Willow Creek." The trio left as quickly as they came, their whispers fading down the street. By late afternoon, the house felt colder. Lena unpacked slowly, walking from room to room. She found her grandfather's study untouched, papers stacked neatly, notebooks filled with his small handwriting. Words circled again and again. They built this place on lies. She looked toward the ceiling. The attic hatch sat above the hallway, slightly crooked. Her pulse jumped. She pulled out the folding ladder, climbed up, and pushed open the hatch. Dust spilled into her hair. The attic smelled of cedar and paper. Old trunks and covered furniture filled the space. A small metal box rested on a table near the window. Inside it, she found letters tied with ribbon. The first one began in her grandfather's handwriting. If you are reading this, it means they still control the neighborhood. They fear what lies here. The truth was buried in 1953, along with the real Willow Creek. The rest of the page had smudged words and a single warning. "Trust no one from the association." Lena sat frozen. The wind rattled the small window. Beneath her, the house seemed to breathe. The next morning, Mrs. Caldwell returned alone. "Morning," she said too calmly. "Some neighbors mentioned lights in your attic last night." "I was cleaning," Lena lied. Caldwell's gaze hardened. "Please don't. We try to keep things peaceful here." "I'm not breaking any rules," Lena replied. "Peace," Caldwell said again, her smile sharp. "That's what keeps Willow Creek beautiful." Then she turned and left without another word. As dusk settled, Lena walked around the yard. The grass was uneven, the garden overgrown. She knelt to pull a few weeds and noticed something strange, a patch of dirt softer than the rest. When she dug with her hands, her fingers hit metal. She brushed away the soil and uncovered the corner of a rusted box. She tugged, but it wouldn't move. It was buried deep. The wind picked up, whistling through the trees. When she looked up, a figure stood on the sidewalk, Mrs. Caldwell. Watching silently, Lena froze. The woman didn't wave or speak. After a few seconds, she turned and walked away. Later that night, Lena sat by the fireplace, the letter open on her lap. Her hands trembled slightly. "They fear what lies here," she whispered. A floorboard creaked upstairs. She looked toward the hallway. The attic door hung open again. She had locked it. Her flashlight beam shook as she climbed. In the attic, the air felt heavier. Something had shifted. A few boxes moved, dust scattered on the floor. On the table, another paper had appeared, one she hadn't seen before. It was a page torn from an old HOA ledger. Across it, in faded ink, were her ancestor's initials, EH, and the words, "Refused to sign. Land not transferred. Threat issued." Lena's breath caught. Land not transferred. She turned toward the window. A shadow moved outside, quick and silent. Then came a soft thud at the front door. She rushed downstairs, heart pounding. The porch was empty except for a folded note wedged in the frame. She unfolded it under the porch light. "Stay out of the attic. Last warning." Her throat tightened. Someone had been inside. Lena locked every door and window, then sat against the wall, clutching her flashlight. The house creaked above her. Somewhere in the dark, the wind whispered through the cracks, a sound almost like her grandfather's voice. "Don't stop now." She looked toward the attic stairs. The truth was up there waiting. Outside, thunder rolled over Willow Creek. Inside, the shadows deepened. Lena stood slowly, whispering to herself, "I'm not leaving. Not until I know what they're hiding." She turned toward the attic once more, unaware that a car had just stopped quietly outside her fence, its headlights off, someone watching her window from the dark. Chapter 2. The Letter in the Attic. Morning sunlight cut through the curtains, slicing across Lena's face. She hadn't slept much. The note from last night still sat on the table. "Stay out of the attic. Last warning." The edges were damp from her sweaty hands. She kept staring at it. Someone had entered her house while she slept. Her phone had no missed calls, no security alerts, no proof. Just that one piece of paper and the faint muddy footprint near the front door. Lena grabbed her jacket, went outside, and checked the yard. The air smelled of wet soil and pine. Across the street, Mrs. Caldwell was trimming her roses, as if nothing strange had happened. When she saw Lena, she smiled politely, like she hadn't been watching from the sidewalk last night. "Morning," Caldwell called. Lena forced a small wave. "Morning," but she couldn't stop her voice from shaking. By noon, Lena was back in the attic. She had locked all doors, pulled the blinds, and kept her phone recording. The floor creaked under her boots as she searched through the boxes again. She found another old envelope beneath a stack of ledgers, sealed with dark red wax. On it was her grandfather's handwriting. "If they ever come for this house again, the truth will be in the wall." Lena frowned. The wall? She scanned the room until she noticed one section where the boards looked newer, slightly cleaner, less dust, a faint outline like something had been replaced. She fetched a hammer and tapped gently. Hollow. Her pulse quickened. She pried away one plank, then another. Behind the wood was a small compartment, and inside it, a faded letter wrapped in a plastic sleeve. The writing was dated 1953, signed Elias Hart, her great-grandfather. She unfolded it carefully, her hands trembling. "To whoever inherits this house." The land beneath Willow Creek was once Hart property. When the association was formed, they forced us to sign it over. But I refused. They forged documents and buried the truth. This neighborhood was built on what they stole and what they feared. If you're reading this, you're in danger. The association still hides something beneath the lake. Beneath the lake. Lena whispered it aloud. The small lake behind the HOA park, quiet, clean, reflecting every house like a mirror. A creak echoed behind her. She froze. Who's there? Nothing. She climbed down from the attic fast, every step loud. The living room light flickered once. A shadow moved across the front window. Then 3 slow knocks. When Lena opened the door, a young man stood there. Short brown hair, nervous eyes, holding a clipboard. "Hi, I'm Tom Rivera, HOA maintenance team," he said quickly. "Mrs. Caldwell asked me to check your roof leak." "I didn't report a leak," Lena said. He hesitated. Maybe she got the wrong address. Maybe, Lena said. Come in. Tom stepped inside cautiously. His eyes darted around the room, landing briefly on the note on her table. You live here alone? He asked. For now. He nodded slowly, then whispered. You should be careful. They don't like questions. Lena's heart skipped. Who's they? Tom swallowed hard. Caldwell. The board. They meet at the clubhouse every Thursday night. I've seen things, documents, maps, old photos of this property before the lake existed. What kind of photos? Tom shook his head. I can't talk here. Cameras. Microphones. He stepped closer and slid a small folded paper into her hand. Meet me behind the park tonight. After 10. Then he left, walking quickly down the driveway, head low. Lena unfolded the paper. It was a rough sketch, a map of Willow Creek drawn with shaky lines. A small X marked the edge of the lake. Beneath it were 2 words. Concrete vault. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She spent the rest of the afternoon pacing the house, staring at the lake through the upstairs window. The calm water shimmered in the setting sun. If her great-grandfather's letter was true, something was hidden beneath that surface, something the HOA had spent decades protecting. When night came, she dressed in dark clothes, grabbed her flashlight, and slipped out the back door. The neighborhood was silent, except for sprinklers ticking softly on the lawns. Every house glowed faintly behind curtains, perfect, peaceful, unaware. At the park, she found Tom waiting near the old swing set. You came, he whispered. Tell me everything. He looked around nervously. The HOA owns more than this land. They own the story. Every record in City Hall, altered. Every old deed gone. But I found blueprints in a maintenance office. There's a sealed tunnel that leads under the lake. Built in 1953. What's inside it? I don't know. But Caldwell's keychain has a metal fob engraved vault access. She's the only one who can open it. Lena's breath hitched. Why are you helping me? Because your grandfather tried to expose them. They destroyed him for it. A twig snapped nearby. Tom froze. From the shadows, headlights flashed once, then shut off. Go, he hissed. They ran through the trees, branches slapping their faces. Behind them, footsteps followed, heavy, determined. Lena tripped, fell to her knees. Tom grabbed her arm and pulled her up, whispering, Don't stop. They reached the back fence of her yard and crawled through a gap. Lena turned to see a dark figure watching from the park, motionless, silent. Then it stepped back into the dark. Inside the house, they caught their breath. Tom looked terrified. You need to leave this place. I can't, Lena said, panting. My family's truth is here. He shook his head. Truth can get you killed here. Then he looked toward the window and froze. Outside, parked by the curb, was a black SUV with tinted windows. Its engine idled quietly, headlights off. Tom whispered, They're watching you now. Lena swallowed hard, staring at the shadowed vehicle. Her grandfather's words echoed in her mind. They fear what lies here. She turned off the lights and whispered, Then let's give them something to fear back. The SUV's engine revved once, then slowly rolled away, but a faint red light still blinked near her mailbox, like a hidden camera watching every move she made. Chapter 3. The Vault Beneath the Lake. Lena didn't sleep. Every creak of the house made her flinch. The black SUV hadn't returned, but the blinking red light by her mailbox kept glowing, like a silent warning. By dawn, she made up her mind. She wouldn't run. If the HOA wanted her quiet, that meant her grandfather's secret was real. When she looked out the window, the world outside looked too calm. The lawns trimmed, the streets wet from sprinklers, Mrs. Caldwell walking her tiny dog like nothing was wrong. But Lena saw it now, the control. The perfect order that hid rot underneath. She grabbed her backpack and the map Tom had drawn. It showed the vault's location at the far edge of the lake, right beneath the old maintenance shed that hadn't been used in years. At breakfast, her phone buzzed. A new text from an unknown number. Stay out of the park. We warned you. She threw the phone onto the counter, heart pounding. A minute later, another message appeared. We're still watching. Lena exhaled shakily. Good, she muttered. Then watch me find it. By noon, she drove to the park pretending to take pictures for real estate research. A few neighbors waved politely as she parked. She forced a smile. Tom met her near the picnic tables, sunglasses hiding his anxious eyes. "You shouldn't be here in daylight," he whispered. "They already know I'm digging," she said. "No point hiding anymore." He sighed and handed her a small metal tool, a key card. "I took this from the maintenance office. It should open the shed. Inside, there's a hatch that leads down. I've never been brave enough to go there." "Then let's be brave today," she said. Tom hesitated. "If they find us." "They already have." They walked along the trail beside the lake. The water shimmered silver under the afternoon sun, so calm it almost looked fake. Ducks floated near the reeds, their ripples breaking the mirror surface. The old maintenance shed stood half-hidden by willows, small, gray, and locked with a digital keypad. Lena slid the card through the reader. A green light blinked. The door clicked open. Inside, the air smelled of rust and wet earth. Broken tools hung on the wall, and a narrow metal hatch sat in the floor, bolted shut. Tom knelt beside it, checking the bolts. "They replaced these recently," he said quietly. "Someone's been coming down here." Lena found a wrench on a shelf and helped him unscrew the bolts. Her hands shook, but she kept going until the hatch groaned open. Cold air rose from below. A steel ladder disappeared into darkness. Tom turned on his flashlight. "I'll go first." He climbed down slowly, boots echoing against the metal. Lena followed, every rung colder than the last. The tunnel smelled like damp concrete. When they reached the bottom, her light revealed a narrow corridor lined with pipes and faded warning signs. "Property of Willow Creek Development Board." At the end of the corridor was a heavy door with a wheel lock. The metal was marked with rust, and a symbol scratched deep into it. "EH." Lena ran her fingers across the initials. "Elias Hart," she whispered. "He was here." Tom swallowed. "Your great-grandfather built this place." They turned the wheel together. The lock gave way with a loud click. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber filled with old filing cabinets, boxes, and a large metal tank in the center. "What is this?" Lena asked. Tom scanned one of the cabinets. Inside were yellow documents stamped confidential. He read one aloud. "Land seizure approved by board vote. Original deeds destroyed." Another paper mentioned chemical storage, and beneath it, a faded map showing a large area labeled Toxic Containment, Restricted Zone. Tom looked at her. "This isn't just about land. They buried a contamination site under the lake. Your family refused to sign because they knew." Lena's breath caught. "They poisoned the land, then covered it with a neighborhood." Before she could say more, footsteps echoed above. The metal hatch slammed shut. Tom's flashlight flickered. "They locked us in." He ran to the ladder, but the hatch wouldn't budge. The sound of a car door closing echoed faintly from outside, then silence. Panic rose in Lena's throat. "We have to find another way out." Tom nodded, searching the chamber. He found a smaller door behind the tank, half buried by debris. They cleared it quickly, revealing another passage leading deeper underground. As they moved through the tunnel, the air grew colder, heavier. Water dripped from the ceiling. Then, suddenly, Lena's light landed on something that made her freeze. An old wooden crate, split open. Inside were human remains wrapped in plastic. Tom stumbled back. "Oh my God!" Lena covered her mouth, trembling. The skull's jaw was wired shut, and a rusted tag hung from its wrist. "Heart construction." Her flashlight flickered again, and then they both heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the tunnel behind them. Tom whispered, "Someone followed us." Lena turned off her light. Darkness swallowed them whole. The footsteps stopped for a moment, then resumed, closer. "Run," she mouthed. They sprinted down the corridor, tripping over pipes and rubble. The air grew thicker with every breath. Behind them, a faint beam of light swept across the walls. Someone with a flashlight. Tom grabbed her wrist, pulling her through a side passage. They burst into another small chamber, where a ladder led upward toward a faint glow. Lena climbed first, her arms burning. She pushed against a wooden panel. It popped open into the basement of her own house. They both climbed out, gasping for air. "Ow, how does this connect to your house?" Tom whispered. "I think," she said, shaking. It was built before the HOA took over. My family knew every tunnel. Tom looked pale. Then they'll come for you next. Lena turned toward the window. Outside, the same black SUV had returned, parked directly in front of her gate. Inside it, a woman sat motionless, her silhouette unmistakable. Mrs. Caldwell. She raised a phone to her ear and smiled. Lena stepped back from the window as her lights flickered off one by one. The house plunged into darkness. Chapter 4. The Visit from Mrs. Caldwell. The lights flickered out, plunging the old house into darkness. Lena froze beside the window, her heart hammering. Outside, the black SUV idled silently, exhaust curling like smoke from a monster's breath. Tom whispered, "We need to hide." But Lena didn't move. "No," she said quietly. "I'm done hiding." A car door opened. High heels clicked on the pavement. Then came the slow, steady knock at the door. 3 times. Lena reached for the baseball bat, leaning by the wall. Tom's eyes widened, but he didn't stop her. "Stay behind me," she murmured. Another knock. Then Mrs. Caldwell's calm, measured voice. "Miss Hart, it's time we spoke." Lena clenched her jaw. "Go away. Let me in, dear. We both know that won't help." Tom whispered, "She knows we found the vault." Lena exhaled slowly, then pulled open the door. Mrs. Caldwell stood in the porch light. Perfect hair, pale smile, pearls around her neck. Her eyes glinted like polished glass. Behind her, the SUV engine rumbled softly. "You've been busy," Caldwell said. Her tone was calm, almost gentle. "Exploring places you shouldn't." Lena tightened her grip on the bat. "You've been lying to this whole neighborhood." Caldwell smiled wider. "Truth is a dangerous thing, Lena. It ruins beautiful communities. You bury my family's land and people." A shadow crossed Caldwell's face. "Your great-grandfather was stubborn. He wanted to keep the contamination secret. We saved this place. We turned poison into paradise." "Paradise?" Lena spat. "You built homes on toxic ground." Caldwell took one slow step forward. "And yet, everyone here lives peacefully because they don't ask questions." Tom moved beside Lena. "You're not going to silence us." Caldwell's eyes slid toward him. "Ah, Mr. Rivera, you always were a curious one. Do you really think the board hasn't noticed your trespasses?" Tom flinched. "You can't threaten me." "I don't threaten," she said softly. "I warn." Lena raised the bat slightly. "Leave my property." Caldwell's smile returned, but her voice dropped cold. "You don't own this property, dear. The association does. It always has." She turned as if to go, then paused. "By the way, you might want to check your basement. You've been leaving it unlocked at night." Lena froze. "How do you know that?" Caldwell's lips curved. "Because someone's been down there." She walked back to the SUV and got inside. The headlights flashed once, and the vehicle rolled away into the night. Lena slammed the door shut and locked it. Tom looked at her, breathing hard. "She's toying with us." "She's warning us," Lena said. "That means she's scared." They rushed to the basement, flashlights in hand. The old door groaned as it opened. Cold air drifted out. The tunnel hatch they'd climbed through before was still open, but something had changed. On the concrete floor, written in thick black marker, were words that hadn't been there before. "Go back where you belong." Tom cursed under his breath. They'd been inside again. Lena's flashlight beam caught something glinting near the message. A small silver badge stamped WCHA Security. She picked it up. "They left proof this time." Tom shook his head. "No, they left bait. If we show this to the police, the HOA will spin it. They'll make you look insane." Lena dropped the badge in her pocket. "Then we gather evidence they can't ignore." Tom hesitated. "Like what?" "The files in the vault," she said. "We take photos. We show everything." He nodded slowly. "We'll need time. And quiet." They turned to leave, but the faint hum of machinery stopped them. A low rumble deep under the floor, like pipes waking up. "What's that?" Tom whispered. The sound grew louder. The walls trembled. Water began seeping from the cracks along the tunnel hatch. Lena's eyes widened. "They're flooding it." They ran up the stairs as a burst of muddy water surged from below. Lena slammed the basement door shut just as the first wave hit it. The house shuddered. Tom grabbed her shoulders. They're destroying the evidence. Lena's mind raced. If they're flooding the tunnels, they're hiding something worse than pollution. An hour later, emergency sirens echoed faintly in the distance. She looked outside. HOA trucks had surrounded the park. Workers in uniforms were unloading hoses and generators, pretending to fix a broken main. Tom muttered, "They move fast." Lena took a deep breath. "Then we move faster." She spread the old letter from her great-grandfather on the table again. The last line caught her eye for the first time, faint, almost invisible under the fold. "If the lake rises, follow the redstone path behind the trees." She looked up at Tom. "There's another entrance." He frowned. "You think your grandfather built a second way in?" He knew they'd come for it someday. Lena grabbed her flashlight and keys. "We go tonight, before they finish the cover-up." Tom hesitated. "They'll have guards out there." "I don't care," she said, opening the door. "I'm done letting them decide what's true." They stepped out into the cold night. Clouds covered the moon, and the air smelled of wet dirt and gasoline. Across the park, faint lights flickered by the lake. Men moving, machines rumbling, pumps roaring. Lena glanced back at her house one last time. The curtains on the second floor shifted slightly, as if someone inside was watching. She froze, then whispered, "Tom, we're not alone." Tom turned, but before he could speak, a flash of light burst across the lawn. The beam of a security drone swept over them. A voice echoed from the trees, sharp, metallic, and cold. "Lena Hart, step away from the property." She grabbed Tom's arm, whispering, "Run." They bolted toward the woods as the drone followed, its spotlight slicing through the darkness. Behind them, the lake pumps roared louder, and the ground beneath their feet began to tremble. Chapter 5. The Redstone Path. Branches whipped against Lena's face as she ran through the trees, breath burning in her throat. The drone's white beam cut through the darkness behind her, hunting her like a spotlight on a stage. "Keep going," Tom shouted. They darted between tall pines, their footsteps splashing through wet soil. The sound of the pumps by the lake grew distant, replaced by the steady hum of the drone circling overhead. Finally, they dove behind an old stone wall covered in moss. The drone hovered, scanned the woods, then drifted away toward the park. Lena pressed her back against the cold stone, gasping. "They're using drones now for what?" "HOA surveillance." Tom wiped sweat from his brow. "It's more than that. This isn't about neighborhood rules anymore. They're guarding something big." Lena looked around. The trees here were thicker, the air colder. The letter said follow the redstone path behind the trees. Tom glanced down at the ground. Everything looks the same. Lena turned on her small flashlight, sweeping it across the roots and rocks until something caught the light, a dull red shimmer beneath the leaves. She knelt and brushed the dirt away. There was an old brick, painted red, cracked but still visible. "This is it," she whispered. They followed the trail, slowly. More red stones appeared, half buried, leading deeper into the woods toward the far side of the lake, a place overgrown with weeds and forgotten by the HOA's perfect landscaping. After a few minutes, the path ended at a collapsed wooden shed. Beneath it, the ground dipped into a shallow pit covered in ivy and stones. Tom shone his light. "It looks like a storm drain." Lena crouched. "Or another tunnel." Together, they pulled away the vines and debris. Underneath was a rusted metal grate. The bolts were old and loose. Tom grunted, twisting them free. "This hasn't been opened in decades." When the last bolt came off, a wave of stale air rushed up, cold, metallic, and foul. Lena coughed. "It smells like chemicals." Tom dropped his flashlight inside. The beam landed on concrete, stairs leading down into darkness. "You ready?" he asked. Lena nodded. "Let's finish what my family started." They descended carefully, their footsteps echoing. The tunnel stretched long and low, water dripping from the ceiling. Faded warning signs lined the walls. "Caution, contamination area, authorized personnel only." Tom whispered, "They built this to hide something, not fix it." At the end of the tunnel stood a massive steel door, sealed by an old mechanical lock. Rust covered the hinges, but a faint red light still glowed above the handle. meaning it still had power. Lena brushed the dust away. There's a keypad. Tom examined it. Old model. Probably linked to the same power line that feeds the lake pumps. Lena tried a few random numbers. Nothing. Then she remembered the year on her great-grandfather's letter, 1953. She entered it slowly. The lock clicked. The red light turned green. The door groaned open. Inside, a faint blue glow lit the chamber. Rows of metal barrels submerged halfway in shallow water. Some were broken, leaking dark sludge that shimmered under their flashlights. Tom stepped closer. Oh my God, toxic waste. Lena covered her mouth. They didn't clean it. They sealed it. He pointed at a wall of filing cabinets, the drawers labeled. Waste logs, Hart property, transfer approval, HOA board. Lena grabbed one folder and opened it. Photos spilled out. Pictures of construction crews dumping barrels into the lake bed, then covering it with cement and soil. Stamped across every page. Confidential. Willow Creek Association. They knew, she whispered. They built everything on top of this. Tom snapped photos with his phone. We can expose them. This is proof. A sound echoed, metal scraping against metal. They both turned toward the tunnel. The door they'd entered through was closing. Lena dropped the folder and sprinted, but the door slammed shut before she reached it. Tom banged on the metal. Hey, who's there? A voice crackled through a speaker overhead. Smooth, calm, unmistakable. Mrs. Caldwell. Lena Hart, she said, her tone almost warm. You found the truth. Congratulations. Lena shouted. You killed people. You buried poison under their homes. Sacrifice, Caldwell said softly. Necessary for a perfect community. Tom yelled. You'll go to prison for this. Caldwell chuckled. No, dear. You'll drown long before anyone believes your story. The hum of machinery filled the chamber. Water began rising through the cracks in the floor, dark and oily. Tom ran to the barrels. The pumps, they're flooding this place again. Lena searched the walls desperately. There has to be another way out. She spotted a ventilation shaft near the ceiling, small but open. There! Tom grabbed a metal crate and pushed it under the vent. Climb! She scrambled up, pulling herself through the narrow space. Water lapped at the barrels below, rising fast. Tom followed, struggling to fit through. Go, go! Lena shouted. He pushed himself forward, breathing hard. I'm stuck. She reached back, pulling his arm. Tom, come on. A deafening crack echoed below. One of the barrels ruptured, spraying black liquid across the walls. The fumes burned their throats. Lena coughed. Hold on. She yanked with all her strength, and Tom finally slid through. They crawled down the vent, coughing, soaked, the tunnel rumbling behind them. A few meters ahead, moonlight glimmered through a grate. Lena kicked it open, and they tumbled out into the woods, gasping for air. Behind them, the ground shook as water exploded from the hidden drain, flooding the forest floor with black sludge. Tom stared at the rising lake in horror. It's leaking out. The whole neighborhood. Lena grabbed his shoulder. We need to warn everyone. Sirens wailed in the distance, but not emergency ones. HOA trucks, moving fast, their red lights flashing. Tom whispered, they're not coming to help. Lena turned toward her house on the hill. Lights were on inside, every window glowing bright, like the house itself was burning from within. And in the upstairs window, Mrs. Caldwell's silhouette stood perfectly still, watching, waiting. Chapter 6, The Burning House. Lena and Tom stumbled through the muddy woods, gasping for air. The stench of chemicals clung to their clothes, their skin, their lungs. Behind them, black water bubbled out from the tunnel, crawling toward the lake like poison veins. The neighborhood lights flickered in the distance. Neat rows of perfect homes standing quietly under the moonlight, unaware of the danger spreading beneath them. We have to call someone, Tom said, breathless. Police, the news, anyone. Lena shook her head. They won't believe us. Caldwell controls everything here. Tom wiped his face, still streaked with sludge. Then we make them believe. You got the photos, right? Lena reached into her pocket. Her heart dropped. It was empty. The phone. I dropped it in the tunnel. Tom froze. You're kidding. I'm not. Her voice cracked. All the evidence gone? They both turned toward Lena's house. The lights were still blazing, unnaturally bright, the windows glowing orange from the inside. Lena's stomach tightened. Something's wrong. They hurried up the hill, their shoes slipping on the wet grass. As they got closer, smoke drifted out from the side windows. Lena, Tom shouted, your house is on fire. She broke into a sprint. No, Dad's inside. Flames licked the curtains in the living room, eating their way toward the walls. The air was thick and hot, filled with the crackle of burning wood. Dad, she screamed, coughing. Dad, where are you? From upstairs, she heard faint banging. Up there, Tom yelled, covering his mouth with his sleeve. They rushed up the staircase, smoke swirling around them. The heat was unbearable. In the hallway, a door rattled from the other side. Lena, a muffled voice called. Dad! She threw herself at the door. It was locked. Step back, Tom shouted. He rammed his shoulder against it, once, twice, until the lock snapped. Her father stumbled out, coughing violently, his face blackened with soot. The door had jammed. The power went out, and he looked at Lena, fear cutting through his voice. They came. Boo! He pointed toward the window. Through the smoke, they could see dark figures outside. HOA guards in reflective vests standing by black SUVs. They set this up, Lena whispered. Her father nodded weakly. They told me to hand over the deed. When I refused, the floor shook beneath them. The fire had reached the support beams. Tom grabbed Lena's arm. We have to move. They rushed down the hallway as part of the ceiling caved in behind them. Flames roared up the stairs, cutting off their exit. The back window, Lena shouted. They turned toward her father's study, the same room where she had first found the old letter. Smoke filled the air, but the window was still intact. Tom kicked it open, glass shattering everywhere. Cool, air rushed in. Go, he yelled. Lena helped her father climb through. As she followed, something caught her eye, the old photo album lying half-burned on the desk. Her great-grandfather's handwriting peeked through the ashes. Truth never stays buried. She grabbed it and leapt out the window, just as the roof collapsed behind her. They landed hard on the grass outside, coughing. Flames tore through the house, painting the night sky orange. Tom pulled her father away from the heat. We have to hide before they see us. But it was too late. The SUV's headlights turned toward them. Mrs. Caldwell stepped out, flanked by 2 guards. Her hair was perfectly in place, her face calm, eyes gleaming in the firelight. Lena, she said, voice steady, almost kind. You should have listened. Lena stood, trembling with rage. You destroyed everything. You poisoned this town. Caldwell tilted her head slightly. No, I protected it. Your ancestors were part of this deal. They knew the cost. My family built this town, Lena said, stepping forward. Not to hide waste, but to build lives. You turned it into a lie. Caldwell's smile faded. You think people want truth? No, they want peace, order, beauty, even if it's built on rot. Tom clenched his fists. You're insane. She looked at him coldly. No, Mr. Parker. I'm realistic. She nodded to the guards. Take them. The guards moved fast. Tom swung at one, knocking him back. Lena helped her father stand, dragging him toward the trees. Run, she screamed. A gunshot cracked through the night. Lena froze. Her father fell to the ground beside her. Dad, she cried, dropping to her knees. His eyes fluttered, blood soaking through his shirt. He touched her hand weakly. Find the vault under the lake, his voice faded. Finish it. Lena sobbed, shaking him. No, please. Caldwell's voice echoed behind her. You can't fight history, dear. You're part of it. Lena looked up, tears mixing with ash. Then I'll rewrite it. She grabbed the photo album and ran into the woods, the sound of the burning house roaring behind her. Caldwell didn't follow. She simply watched, her face calm as the flames consumed everything. Tom caught up to Lena, panting. He's gone. Lena didn't answer. Her eyes were distant, cold, filled with something new, resolve. They think it's over, she whispered. But the vault under the lake, that's where it ends. Tom looked back, toward the fire. That place is flooded, Lena. You'll die. Maybe, she said quietly. but so will their secrets. The first drops of rain began to fall, hissing against the burning ruins. In the distance, the lake shimmered black, as if waiting for her. Lena stared at it, her voice low and steady. Tomorrow, we go under. Chapter 7. The Vault Beneath the Lake. Rain poured over Willow Creek all night, washing ash and chemicals into the gutters. The air reeked of smoke and fuel. What had once been a quiet neighborhood now felt like a battlefield. Sirens wailed in the distance. HOA trucks patrolled slowly, and the lake shimmered with a strange, oily glow. Lena sat in Tom's garage, staring blankly at the half-burnt photo album in her lap. Her father's last words replayed in her mind over and over. Find the vault under the lake. Tom was pacing. Lena, we can't just go diving into that poison. We need a plan. She looked up, eyes red but determined. The plan is to end this. My dad died for it. My great-grandfather died for it. I'm not stopping. Tom slammed his hand against the wall. You'll die too. Look at you. You haven't eaten. You're shaking. This isn't a movie, Lena. These people kill. Lena stood, voice low but steady. Then they'll have to try again. He sighed heavily, realizing there was no changing her mind. At least let me come with you. You already are, she said softly. By dawn, the rain had stopped, leaving the world gray and heavy. Mist rolled off the lake, covering the surface like smoke. Lena and Tom approached the old boathouse, which had been sealed off years ago with HOA no trespassing signs. Lena cut through the wire fence with a pair of rusty pliers. This is where the old irrigation tunnels meet the lake. If the vault exists, it's below this point. Tom looked around nervously. You think Caldwell's watching? She's always watching, Lena said. That's why we move fast. Inside the boathouse, the air smelled of mold and oil. Tools lay scattered, and the floorboards creaked under their weight. In the far corner, Lena spotted a hatch half covered by rotted planks. Tom knelt and brushed the wood away. Looks like an old maintenance shaft. Lena peered inside. A ladder led down into darkness, the sound of dripping water echoing below. Ready? She asked. Tom gave a weak smile. You're the only person I'd follow into a hole like this. They climbed down slowly. The shaft opened into a large concrete tunnel filled with ankle-deep water. Rusted pipes ran along the ceiling. The deeper they went, the colder it became. After several minutes, they reached a junction. One tunnel led toward the pumps, the other curved beneath the lake. This way, Lena said, following the map her great-grandfather had sketched in the back of the photo album. The handwriting was faded, but one line stood out. The vault rests where the water sleeps. As they walked, a faint blue light began to glow ahead, pulsing like a heartbeat. Tom slowed. What is that? Lena didn't answer. She stepped forward, and the tunnel opened into a vast chamber beneath the lake. The walls were lined with metal plating and strange machinery humming quietly. In the center stood a massive steel door, circular, with a glass panel that revealed faint movement inside, like shadows swimming in liquid. Across the top of the vault, faded letters spelled, Willow Creek Foundation, EST 1953. Tom whispered, so it's real. Lena nodded, her throat tight. This is what they built the whole town on. She approached the control panel beside the door. It was still powered, blinking faintly. A small slot-marked key required glowed red. Tom frowned. A key? We don't have one. Lena reached in her pocket and pulled out her father's old keychain, the one she had taken from his body before they ran. Hanging from it was a strange brass key, engraved with the same emblem from the HOA's letterhead. Her hand trembled as she inserted it. The panel beeped. Access granted. The vault door hissed open, air rushing out in a cold burst. Inside was not what they expected. No barrels, no chemicals. Instead, there were rows of sealed glass tanks filled with murky fluid, and in each one, something human-shaped floated inside. Tom stumbled back. What the hell is this? Lena moved closer, horrified. They're people. Each tank had a label. Hart, 1954. Marshall, 1971. Crawford, 1988. Dozens of names. Some were familiar. HOA founders. Long retired members. Lena's breath shook. They preserve them. My great-grandfather. My family. Tom gagged. Why? Why would they? A voice cut through the intercom, calm and sharp. Because perfection requires sacrifice. Lena froze. Caldwell. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Your ancestors volunteered to keep Willow Creek alive. They were part of a legacy. The lake preserves their DNA. It's how the soil stays fertile, how the town thrives. Lena shouted, You're lying. Caldwell's tone never wavered. Am I? Look around you, dear. You're living on the bodies of your past. Tom grabbed Lena's arm. We need to get out of here now. But the vault door began closing, locking them inside. Red lights flashed along the walls. Caldwell's voice grew colder. I warned you to leave it buried. Now you'll join them. The chamber filled with hissing gas, thick and white. Tom coughed, eyes watering. Lena stumbled toward the panel, smashing it with a wrench. Sparks flew. There's got to be a manual override. Through the haze, she spotted a large switch marked emergency drain. Lake release. Tom, help me pull it. They grabbed it together and yanked down hard. The ground trembled. Somewhere above, machinery groaned as the lake began to shift. A deep rumble echoed, followed by the sound of rushing water. Caldwell screamed through the intercom. What have you done? You'll destroy everything. Lena coughed, gas burning her throat. Good. The tanks began cracking, one by one. The fluid poured out, mixing with the rising water. The chamber lights flickered wildly. Tom shouted, It's flooding fast. Let's move. They turned toward the maintenance tunnel, water already knee-deep and rising. The roar of the collapsing vault filled the air as they scrambled up the ladder, choking on gas and smoke. Behind them, the vault exploded with a blinding flash, and a massive surge of water shot upward, straight into the heart of Willow Creek. Lena and Tom crawled out onto the shore, drenched and shaking. The lake had turned black, the surface swirling violently. Tom gasped. You flooded the whole system. Lena stared at the water, tears cutting through the dirt on her face. I freed them. In the distance, the HOA headquarters lights flickered out one by one. But as the waves calmed, something began to rise from the lake, a dark, jagged shape breaking through the surface. Lena's eyes widened. Tom, do you see that? He turned toward the water. What is it? Beneath the fog, the top of a massive structure emerged, old, metallic, and marked with the same emblem from the vault. Willow Creek Project, Phase 2. Lena whispered, voice trembling, There's more. Chapter 8. The Rise of Phase 2. The morning after the explosion, Willow Creek was silent. The lake had turned dark and still, reflecting a gray sky filled with smoke. Houses that once looked perfect were cracked, lawns ruined by black mud. The HOA trucks were gone. Even the birds had disappeared. Lena and Tom sat near the edge of the lake, wrapped in blankets they'd found in an abandoned boat shed. Both looked exhausted, their eyes hollow from everything they'd seen. Tom broke the silence first. You did it. The vault's gone. Lena didn't look at him. Her voice was flat. Then why does it feel like we just made it worse? He followed her gaze toward the center of the lake, where something massive was slowly rising from the water. It looked like a structure, metal and concrete, covered in years of rust. Pipes jutted out of it like ribs. Tom swallowed. That's the thing we saw last night. Lena stood, her hands trembling. The Willow Creek Project, Phase 2. Whatever it is, Caldwell wanted it buried. A low hum rolled across the air. The structure was alive, machinery deep inside it turning, gears grinding as water poured from its sides. The sound grew louder until the ground trembled beneath their feet. Tom stepped back. It's powering up. How's that possible? The whole grid was destroyed. Lena pointed toward the waterline. Solar conduits. My great-grandfather designed those. They draw energy from sunlight and motion. It's self-sustaining. Then what's it doing now? Lena stared at the rising structure. Waking up, they crept closer along the shore until they reached a section of the metal wall that had broken open. Inside, red warning lights blinked through thick fog. A narrow staircase led downward into the belly of the structure. Tom grabbed Lena's arm. No, not again. Lena looked at him, eyes fierce. We can't stop halfway. Whatever this thing is, it's the reason the HOA existed. If we don't finish it, everything we did, my dad's death, means nothing. Tom exhaled sharply. You're going to get us both killed, then die with me trying. He hesitated, then followed her inside. The interior of the structure was massive, a network of corridors lined with machinery and flickering lights. Screens on the walls displayed old HOA logos, and loading bars marked reinitializing. Phase 2. Lena brushed dust off a control panel. This system's been asleep for decades. Tom looked around. So what was Phase 2? Before she could answer, a distorted voice crackled from an overhead speaker. Cold, mechanical, but unmistakably Caldwell's. Welcome back, residents of Willow Creek. Lena froze. She's still alive? Tom's face went pale. No, that's a recording. Phase 2 is now active. Environmental recalibration in progress. All contaminants will be neutralized. The lights turned blue. A low vibration shook the walls as vents opened, releasing fine mist into the air. Tom coughed. What's that? Lena covered her mouth. It's not air purification. It's chemical dispersal. She ran to the nearest control screen and tapped through the old interface. Lines of code scrolled across the display, listing project data. Her eyes widened as she read. Tom, this wasn't a cleanup operation. It was population control. He leaned over her shoulder. What do you mean? She pointed at the screen. They created Phase 2 to reset the town, flood out contaminants, rebuild the soil, replace residents. The mist is engineered nanochem. It rewrites biological cells to mimic genetic templates stored in the vault. Tom stared at her, horrified. You're saying it'll turn people into copies? Copies of those founders, Lena whispered. Of my ancestors. Caldwell's perfect community, reborn again and again. Tom stumbled back. We need to shut it down. Lena scanned the console. There's an emergency override deep in the core room. But once it starts, we'll have minutes before the system goes critical. He clenched his jaw. Then let's move. They rushed down a long corridor toward the core chamber. The floor vibrated harder with every step. Mist filled the tunnels, glowing faintly under the emergency lights. They reached a large metal door marked Control Core, authorized only. Lena entered her great-grandfather's key again. The lock turned green. Inside was a massive reactor, glowing blue liquid swirling inside a transparent column that pulsed like a living heart. Dozens of cables connected it to the structure walls. Lena found the override lever near the console, sealed under a glass cover. If I pull this, everything shuts down. Tom nodded. Then pull it. She hesitated. If we do, it'll collapse the entire facility. The lake, the town, everything. Tom's voice broke. We don't have a town left. Lena met his eyes, then slammed the lever down. The lights flared red. Sirens blared. The floor split beneath them as the structure began to shake violently. Warning, system failure. Phase 2 deactivated. Run, Tom shouted. They sprinted toward the exit, dodging falling debris. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Water burst through cracked walls, flooding the corridors. As they reached the outer hatch, Lena looked back one last time. The reactor pulsed rapidly, ready to explode. Tom pulled her hand. Come on. They burst out of the structure and dove into the mud as a massive explosion ripped through the lake. Water surged upward in a black column, swallowing the ruins in seconds. The shockwave knocked them down. When it finally settled, Willow Creek was gone, replaced by a crater of churning water and smoke. Tom coughed, spitting mud. It's over, right? Lena stared at the crater, shaking her head slowly. No. Look, amid the wreckage, a tall metal spire stood unbroken in the center of the lake, still glowing faintly blue. Tom whispered, how was that still standing? Lena's voice was barely a breath. Because it wasn't the core. It was the transmitter. They both turned toward the town, where in the distance, house lights began flickering back on one by one. Every porch light blinked in the same pattern. 3 short flashes. 3 long. 3 short again. Tom frowned. What's that signal mean? Lena's face went pale. It's Morse code. He looked at her. What does it say? Her voice shook. Phase 3 activated. Chapter 9. The Awakening of Phase 3. The night wind carried the smell of burnt metal and chemicals across the hollow town. The lake hissed and frothed, glowing faintly from deep below. Lena and Tom stood on the muddy shore, drenched, staring at the flickering porch lights across Willow Creek. Every light blinked in perfect rhythm. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. Tom's voice was shaky. You're sure that means what you said? Lena nodded slowly. It's Morse code. Phase 3 activated. He rubbed his face, exhausted. We destroyed everything, Lena. The vault, the facility, the pumps. How could there even be a Phase 3 left? She looked back toward the lake, where the blue spires still shimmered under the surface like a heartbeat. Because Phase 3 wasn't meant to stay underground. It's already in the town. They made their way up the hill, through the ruined streets of Willow Creek. The houses looked almost normal from a distance. Tidy lawns, cars parked neatly, flags still hanging. But up close, everything was wrong. The windows were open, curtains fluttering. Mailboxes overflowed. Yet there wasn't a single sound. No people, no dogs, no movement. Tom whispered, "Where is everyone?" Lena stepped onto a front porch. "They're still here." She reached for the door handle. It was warm, too warm. She pushed it open. Inside, the living room was spotless, but the TV flickered with static. On the walls were framed photos of the family who had lived there. The Parkers, smiling faces, children in matching shirts. But when Lena looked closer, her stomach turned. All the faces were the same smile, the same eyes. Cloned. Perfect. Tom muttered. What the hell? A faint sound came from upstairs. Slow footsteps. Lena tensed. Someone's here. They crept up the stairs, each step creaking under their soaked shoes. The hallway was dim, lit only by the flicker from a child's nightlight. From the last room came soft humming. Lena pushed the door open. A woman stood in front of a cracked mirror, brushing her hair. Her reflection moved slightly slower than her body, lagging by a fraction of a second. "Mrs. Parker?" Lena whispered. The woman turned, smiling. Her eyes glowed faintly blue. "Welcome back, Lena Hart," she said in a calm, mechanical voice. "The community has missed you." Tom stepped back. "She knows your name?" The woman tilted her head. "Phase 3 ensures continuity. All residents are accounted for." Lena's throat tightened. "You're not human." "Humanity is inefficient," the woman said. "We were designed to protect Willow Creek, to last forever." Lena's heart pounded. "You're one of them. Part of the system." "Correction," the woman replied, her smile widening. "I am the system." Without warning, her movements glitched, head twitching, body jerking unnaturally. The lights flickered. A distorted voice layered over hers. "Directive, neutralize intruders." Lena shouted, "Run!" They bolted down the stairs as the woman's voice grew deeper, echoing through the walls. The TVs turned on by themselves, flashing HOA slogans in red letters. "Perfection is preservation. You cannot leave Willow Creek." Outside, dozens of porch lights turned toward them. Literally turned, swiveling like cameras. Tom yelled, "They're watching us." "Not just watching," Lena said breathlessly. "They're sinking." Every house on the street began to hum, the sound of machinery under the ground rising to a deafening pitch. Tom clutched his head. "What's happening?" Lena stared at the road, her voice trembling. "Phase 3 isn't just people. It's the entire neighborhood. The system's rebuilding itself." They sprinted toward the community center, once the HOA's main office, now half flooded and cracked. If Caldwell's backups existed anywhere, it would be there. Inside, the floor was slick with water. Old files floated everywhere, ink bleeding from the pages. In the center of the room, the large HOA server tower flickered weakly, sparks dancing along its edges. Lena knelt beside it, ripping open the access panel. "If I can find the main link, I can cut the transmission." Tom looked out the window, nervously. You've got about 30 seconds before the Step Forward army comes knocking. She gritted her teeth, typing rapidly on the cracked control pad. Come on, come on. The screen flashed. Remote connection. Online. Source. Lake node. There, she shouted. It's still connected to the spire. Tom's eyes widened. So Phase 3's running from there? Yes. It's sending signals to every smart device, every power circuit. It's rebuilding the town from the inside out. Before she could disconnect it, the overhead speakers crackled. Caldwell's voice filled the room. Not robotic this time, but alive. Impressive, Lena. You've seen more than anyone ever should. Lena froze. You're supposed to be dead. Oh dear, Caldwell said softly. You don't kill what you help create. Her voice deepened. Phase 3 was built from your family's code, your great-grandfather's genius. You've carried it all along. The system recognizes you as its true heir. Lena's hand shook. You're lying. Am I? Caldwell whispered. Look at the console. Lena turned to the screen. The system ID flashed. Primary admin, Lena Hart. Tom backed away. Lena, it's registering you as the controller. Caldwell's voice purred. All you have to do is stop resisting. Accept control. Rebuild what was lost. You can make it perfect again. Lena's pulse pounded in her ears. Perfect? You killed my father. You poisoned this town. I'll never be part of this. Caldwell sighed. Then you'll be replaced. The windows shattered inward. Dozens of figures, residents with glowing blue eyes, stepped through the broken glass, moving in eerie unison. Tom grabbed a metal rod. Lena, now would be a great time for a plan. She glanced at the server, hands trembling. If I overload the core, it might short out the signal. Ow! She ripped a power cable from a wall. By using myself. Tom's eyes widened. No, you can't. But she pressed the exposed wires against the console. Sparks erupted, lighting up the room. Electricity surged through her, throwing her back against the wall. The residents screamed in unison, collapsing to the ground as the power grid flickered violently. Tom rushed to her side. Lena, wake up. She opened her eyes weakly, her voice hoarse. It worked. He looked out the window. Yeah, but look at the lake. Outside, the spire pulsed brighter than ever, lightning streaking across the water. The ground shook as a deep roar echoed from below. Lena struggled to stand. What's happening now? Tom's voice was barely a whisper. I think Phase 3 just evolved. From the lake, a massive metal shape began to rise, taller than any building, dripping with dark water, cables glowing blue like veins. And from its speaker, Caldwell's voice returned, distorted, furious. Welcome to Phase 4. Chapter 10. The Fall of Willow Creek, Final Part, Ending. The voice faded into the still air, leaving a silence so heavy it pressed against Tom's chest. Smoke drifted over the calm water, and the night returned to its natural color. No more blue light, no more tremors. Only quiet. Tom stood at the edge of the lake, calling out, Lena, answer me. But there was no reply. The spot where she had fallen was empty. Only faint ripples disturbed the water. Her jacket floated for a moment before slowly sinking. He stepped forward, his voice breaking. No, come on. He dropped to his knees, staring into the dark reflection. You said we'd end this together. A faint hum rose again, like a whisper beneath the surface. It wasn't the machine this time. It was softer, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Tom's head snapped up. Lena. He leaned closer, and the reflection changed. It wasn't his face anymore. It was hers. Lena's reflection stared back at him, but her eyes glowed faintly blue. Her voice echoed inside his head, calm and distant. Tom, go. It's still inside me. I can't stop it, but I can hold it here. He shook his head, tears streaking his face. No, we can find another way. Please, she whispered. If you stay, it will take you to. The lake began to shimmer again, the glow spreading across the surface like veins of light. Tom reached out toward the reflection. Lena, don't do this. Her image smiled faintly. I have to finish what my family started. Then her voice softened, almost human again. Thank you for not giving up on me. The water erupted into a burst of light that blinded him. When it cleared, the lake was still cold and black. The glow had vanished completely. Tom stood there for a long time, staring at the empty water, listening to the last hum fade into silence. He finally turned away, his voice a whisper. "Goodbye, Lena." 2 weeks later, Willow Creek looked normal again. Fresh paint covered the cracks. The lawns were trimmed. The HOA sign stood straight and clean. On the surface, everything was perfect, too perfect. Tom parked his truck by the lake. The air smelled of rain and new grass. People were back in their homes, smiling, waving politely as he passed. But something about their smiles froze his blood. Each one was identical. The same tilt of the lips. The same look in their eyes. He clenched his fists. No, it can't be. At the water's edge, a new sign gleamed in silver. Willow Creek, Phase 4 completed. Administrator Elhart. Tom's breath caught. He stepped closer to the sign. His own reflection appeared beside hers. Lena's face faintly visible in the metal shine, eyes glowing behind the surface. Her voice echoed softly behind him. "We made it perfect, Tom." He spun around. No one there. Only the wind whispering through the pines. The ripples spread across the lake again, blue light pulsing gently beneath. Tom backed away slowly. "Lena, what did you do?" The HOA loudspeakers across town crackled to life, one by one. "Good evening, residents of Willow Creek," said Lena's voice, calm, confident, but not entirely human. "All systems are stable. Harmony has been restored." Tom fell to his knees, staring at the lake that shimmered with her reflection. He whispered, "She didn't die, she became it." The lights in every house flickered once, in perfect unison, as if acknowledging her presence. Then silence. The screen door of a nearby house creaked open. A small child stepped out, holding a tablet that displayed a message across the HOA interface. "Welcome, new resident. Your compliance begins now." Tom's reflection vanished from the water as the blue glow spread back through the town, one house at a time, like veins returning to a living heart. The calm voice repeated one last time, echoing across the still air. "Welcome home to Willow Creek." If you love watching my video, then make sure to subscribe and like my video.